Hi, very good afternoon, everyone. I hope people are not getting bored, and I'll also ensure that not to bore you too much, but we'll try to make session more of an interactive one. So please feel free to interrupt me whenever you feel like, if it's going beyond some regular discussion. So my name is Eeshan. I take care for the Thales data protection portfolio based out of Bangalore, and from Thales data protection portfolio is something what we do in terms of encryption and key management. And that's all what I would like to discuss with respect to what we are doing in the field, and what's in there for the NBFCs organization, what we have done previously in so many years with many of the banks, non-banking financial companies, and apart from them, IT, ITS, and so many other organizations. Just to introduce ourselves, who we are, as a part of Thales Group, we are present in more than 80 countries. Thales is into aerospace, communication, navigation, and apart from that, there's one more key business unit that we are into is digital identity and security, what you see in the pink color. That's what we are representing over here, which takes care for data protection part. The interesting part would be to understand what we are doing in Thales India. As a part of Thales India, we have been working with a few basic terminologies that you might be knowing about: general purpose HSMs, payment HSMs, and then apart from that, data encryption and key management. We are very much locally present over here in India. We are almost more than 1,500 employees. We have our R&D center, which is based out of Noida. We have our support center that is also locally based out of India itself. And apart from that, we do have our support center warehouse also that's over here. Now, the discussion what I'm trying to make over here is with respect to the cloud security. So cloud is one such term which we have been seeing from the past 2.5 years a lot more. That's something what a feedback that we are getting from our customers, that many of the organization, be it NBFCs, be it banks or any other, they are tending to move their data structures, their infrastructure towards cloud. Now, when we talk about cloud, if you see this slide, it's a very interesting page. There are three kinds of services being provided by cloud service provider. If you see the first one, infrastructure as a service, in any of these three, the pink part represents what is always a customer's responsibility, and the blue part represents what is always the cloud service provider responsibility. So if you see the first one, infrastructure as a service, data application runtime middleware operating system, it always remains the responsibility of the customer. If we move from IaaS to platform as a service, then data and application still remains the responsibility of the customer. And if there is a SaaS, which is a software as a service, there's still one thing which always remains the responsibility of the customer, that is data. So it's a very, I can quote one point, that security of the cloud is the responsibility of cloud service provider. At the same time, security in the cloud is always the responsibility of the customer itself. So no matter what kind of services we are taking from our cloud service provider, be it IaaS, PaaS or SaaS, data always remains the responsibility of us. And that's where the data protection comes into the picture. Now, take an example. We put our workload over a public cloud environment, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it Google, Oracle, Salesforce, or any other. The first question that we ask the cloud service provider is, how are you going to protect my data? And that's where the answer comes from the cloud service provider, that yes, we are storing your data. We'll ensure that we'll do the encryption of data at rest. The second question that customer generally asks is that you are doing the encryption is all fine. What about managing the encryption keys in a key manager? That's where the answer comes from the CSP, is that yes, we do manage the encryption key as well. Now what is left? That's where the term comes, which is called as bring your own key. So I'm just going to discuss about that part. What's that all about? So first, let's try to see what these major cloud service providers have to say with respect to the encryption key part. So if you see the yellow part, if it's not visible, I'll just read it out quickly. Google says that if your organization does not have any specific requirement related to compliance or locality of the cryptographic key, then we are here for you. We'll do the encryption, we'll manage the encryption keys. At the same time, AWS also says the same thing, that customer can view the access policy, CloudTrail events for AWS managed keys, but cannot manage them. Means that I am, as a AWS or any cloud service provider, I'm doing the encryption, I'm doing the management of the encryption keys, but you are not having the full ownership of those keys. From the security perspective, yes, it's all good. Azure says that customer do not interact with the platform managed keys. Now, this platform managed keys, customer keys, what are all those terms? This is something what CSPs have to say. At the same time, what these cloud service provider advise to their customers. So they advise that if you go ahead with owning the encryption keys, then this functionality will have greater control over the keys used to encrypt the data at rest. Now, what is this owning the encryption keys? I am relying on a cloud service provider. Cloud service provider says, I'll take care of your data. Number one. Number two, I'll take care of encrypting your data. Number three, I'll do the key management of that particular data also. Now, what is left? The left part is that what is there in my hand. I am relying 100% on my cloud service provider with respect to my storing of data, to encryption, to key management. Nothing is in my hand. Where is the ownership lies? That's where there is a feature which is being provided by almost all the cloud service provider, and that feature is called as bring your own key, BYOK. Now, BYOK helps us or you as a customer to have the ownership of those encryption keys and store those encryption keys locally with you, so that tomorrow if any of the cloud service provider, or let's say any of the employee of these cloud service provider want to do anything with the data, they cannot do it. It's kind of a similar thing when we open, how many of us have opened a locker in a bank? Locker to store our jewelries or some valuables. So irrespective of whichever bank we open our locker, be it the highest top end bank or just a local state bank, whenever we open a locker, there's always a key that remains with us. That's exactly the same thing that we do rely on the bank. We do rely on the bank's management, but still I need some ownership so as to avoid any kind of problem that a bank employee might do. So individuals cannot be trusted. Organization can be trusted, but individuals cannot be trusted. That's exactly the same thing what we are doing over here in cloud. We are relying on the organization, but we cannot rely on the individual. If someday any of the employee can do anything to my data, that's where I want to own those encryption key and locally store it with me. And where this encryption key will be stored is a key manager. And that's exactly what we are doing. Now, this is not something what we have been telling to organization. This is something what even government regulations are also coming up slowly and eventually. Until 2020 and 21, RBI has implemented this regulation for banks and few of the NBFCs, that if you have your data over cloud, you need to manage the encryption keys. Recently, SEBI has also come up with the same circular. If you see this snapshot, this is one of the recent snapshot of SEBI, which came in earlier March this year, where they have asked all the mutual fund organizations, stockbrokers, stock exchanges, eKYC vendors, that if you have your data stored over cloud, you need to implement BYOK, which is bring your own key. If BYOK is not possible, which means that if CSP is not giving you encryption services, then you have to implement BYOE, which is bring your own encryption, which means that you do the encryption yourself and again manage the encryption keys and store it locally with you. So that is what SEBI is saying. Again, at the same time, IRDAI, who takes care for the insurance organization, they have also come up with this regulation of all the insurance companies to do the key management. Encryption is something which is a past thing. It's not something new. It's been used from many years now, and that is a threat also. Encryption is like locking the door and keeping the key on the lock itself. If someone wants to breach in, they can just pull out that key, unlock the door, and come inside. That's where this key management comes into the picture, where you should lock the door, keep the key securely in a separate key manager which cannot be breached. And that's what IRDA also says, that you need to do the whole key lifecycle management. Along with that, if most of us might be aware about UIDI. UIDI is also put into the compliance with respect to the Aadhaar data. If any of the organization was storing Aadhaar numbers or even interacting with the Aadhaar numbers just for the authentication purposes, be it eKYC or CKYC, they need to store those encryption key in a hardware security module. So those are few of the components which we have been providing, which we have been delivering successfully to organizations in the IT sector, in the NBFC sectors, almost all the banks, insurance companies, and lot of organizations uses this product portfolio. So this is also one of the third-party CSA, cloud security lines, who always have been recommending since many years to go ahead with the BYOK part. Now, why do we even need an external key manager? Again, the same thing what I was discussing. If a cloud service provider is any which way is giving you encryption, and if the cloud service provider is any which way is giving you the key management, why do you even need to invest in a third-party external key manager? That's where the answer lies, that if you go ahead with an external key manager, that will ensure not only your one single use case of storing the keys of your cloud, but any of your data that is on-premise, data at rest, be it flat files, be it databases, be it application, be it your database columns, anything that is stored on-premise or on cloud can be managed from a single key manager. That's the beauty of this particular product, that it takes care for encryption and key management of any of your data that is stored on premise or in transit as well. So along with that, I'll just skip this one. Along with that, it not only stores the encryption keys, it helps you to manage the whole key lifecycle. Means you can do creation of keys, deletion of keys, edit the keys, do the key rotation, automated key rotation, key versioning. In fact, whole end-to-end life cycle of key management, that too automatically, which is the most important part, that you do not need to do any kind of a thing manually. Just implement a solution which takes care for your encryption, key management, set up the policy at once to do the key rotation after every 3 months or after every 6 months, and it's done. Just a kind of a plug and play solution. So that's what something I would like to just present in front of you. If you have any kind of a queries and any question, please feel free to ask. I would be more than happy to answer that. Or maybe if not now, we have a booth just next here. Please do visit us for more information. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time.